Hello everyone, I'm Mayurika Shivakumar, co-founder of IRID, and I'm thrilled to bring you to today's podcast. Joining me is the founder of IRID, Mr. Karthik Venkatachalam. Welcome Karthik.
Hi, welcome to the first podcast of IR Ideate. So, IR Ideate is a startup company that is going to produce content in the field of international relations. So, in the form of or in way of the background of what this company is. It's a one-person company, so I've started this company, and I've been in the IT industry for the longest period of time, most of my career, like the first 16 years, or actually 20, because I also have a master's in computer science. And then my latest master's was in international relations. And this is something, this is a field that I pursued because I was naturally inclined towards, politics, geopolitics, these kinds of topics, more than, writing code and debugging, burning the midnight oil for 70 hours a week as Mr. NRN would think we should be doing to make India a developed country so that we can, be software coolies because we signed a piece of paper that Mr. Mohandas Pai and his gang of HR gave us, and we adults, so we signed.
You shared some compelling thoughts on the work culture in the IT industry, especially at Infosys. Could you expand more on the specific hypocrisies or contradictions you perceive between Infosys' stated values and its actual treatment of employees? Do you think there's a way for companies to balance profitability, global competitiveness, and ethical treatment of staff? What more would you like to see from corporate leaders in India when it comes to empowering workers and enabling basic rights like collective bargaining?
So now we are slaves of Infosys. We are bonded to Infosys. We're not going to join our company after we quit Infosys. All those kinds of, unethical clauses, so that we can make more money for NRN's family, so that his son can go to Harvard, so that money can trump merit. That's the kind of capitalist society that we want. And then we have to hear his lectures about how we should move out of this orbit of our family, think about our nation. I mean, it's a whole load of hip-hops. And I don't know if I'm digressing. This is my first podcast, so forget my my lack of focus, if you will. But I was at the point of where this world has come to, with this kind of plutocratic thought, where you think that people's lives, people are going to be only valued by the amount of dollars or amount of rupees. That's what we've dumbed down our societies to. And we built this whole complex interdependence, if you will, between countries that is coming apart now. Because I think by and large people are realizing that the world that we're building is definitely not as sustainable. And even on the topic of sustainability, the way that we're trying to find solutions are totally morally bankrupt. You want to kind of make the the developing world, emerging economies, the global south, if you will, stay in its place. Okay, stay poor. Do the coolie work for countries that are only having like a 35-hour week. If you looked at the latest stuff, the news report that came out, in which Bill Gates said, we probably need to have a 3-day week on the job and do the rest of the rest of the time off for other projects, not necessarily work related. 70 hours a week is okay for entrepreneurs if you're building something new that if you're passionate about. But if you are stuck in a dissatisfying job, and then you have plutocrats come and tell you that, if you don't work 70 hours a week, we're not going to be a developed country. It reminds me of, the earliest profession, where pimps used to, say the more number of hours you work, the more you get paid. So what if I am a richer person than someone else who's doing work, setting his mind or his body, or her mind or her body, for money, not for something that I innately enjoy because I signed a piece of paper, and you think you can hold me to it legally. You're kind of using your authoritarian, power. Is that what an enlightened democracy, as Mr. NRN calls his company, is that what an enlightened democracy looks like? Where is industrial democracy? Where is a labor union in Infosys, Mr. NRN? That is a fundamental right that you have denied your employees for so long, with all your with your image and with your talks about with your saintly image. I mean, look, you might be a decent person, but you have to understand that you cannot take credit for the company that has been built by the blood and toil of your employees. You've taken the credit, and you have given credit only to people who are in your circle. There is no dissidence to you. How is that an enlightened democracy? In which planet is that an enlightened democracy? And are they working so that, your family can have these photo shoots and, rub shoulders with these politicians, international politicians?
Reflecting on your passionate views, Karthik, you have faced criticism for challenging the status quo. How do you navigate such critics and maintain your commitment to expressing dissenting opinions, especially when addressing sensitive topics like political ideologies and societal norms?
I've had this discussion on some WhatsApp groups where I've been criticized as being not just disillusioned, but also somewhat of a person who has who doesn't have like real valid points, frustrated individual who does not have real valid points, taking his erstwhile boss. Well, but I have valid points. And I do not think that we should be a society that is a slave of money for which we will work for employers 70 hours a week, 80 hours a week, 90 hours a week. I mean, you can work. You're not a good example. Okay. And I think people are seeing through it. And the current state of the world where we are having these conflicts is exactly because this kind of mentality has been pushed through. When there are many good things about the Western society, the American way of life, which has kind of become the way of life for most of us, right? In terms of, talking about democracy, go out and vote. But you look at the United States election, I mean, there's two parties, more, all right, sometimes a third party. There are more genders than parties in the United States. So people are kind of forced to think in binaries, right? And we have the same issue kind of getting recycled again and again. Oh, abortion, women's rights, body, one right to a body and all that. I mean, okay, sort out that issue this way or that way, but you can just keep the people, involved, go to the streets, and say, oh, rage. And we're missing, discussions, reasonable discussions, calm discussion on such topics. Okay. And we find a person or something to kind of demonize, and like the Putin. To me personally, Putin is perhaps the most statesman-like leader that the world has currently. And if you say, oh, his attack on Ukraine was unprovoked, I'm sorry, I beg to differ. And he's talked about the coup of 2014 in Ukraine, which, led Russia to invade Crimea. Okay, and we also have to keep in mind that this history or Soviet Union and the United States, the bipolar world, where there was a balance of power, where there was not black and white, there was gray, and there is gray in this world. There is no black and white. There is no right and wrong. And we have to find ways to live in relative harmony, live and let live in this world, which partly seems to be unraveling. And there are many reasons for it. But I think I kind of thought my first podcast is going to be about 15 minutes or so. I have another minute or so left, 1.5 minutes left. And I'll carry on from this thread in my next podcast. I'll have to review how this one went. I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of hate. I hope not. I hope I also get some likes for being able to speak my mind as an individual free thinker. rather than just like some kind of a robot. And my thoughts, of course, you might say I got brainwashed by this side or that side, but I have access to information. I have lived a life, 48 years now. 2 years, I'll be 50. In terms of accomplishments, when I was in school, I did get a lot of prizes and trophies and certificates. But I guess when I became an adult and be part of the corporate world, I didn't really learn the art of reality. And I still did fairly well. I'm well traveled.
Well put, Karthik. I wanted to shed light on a disturbing new report that recently came out from the International Labour Organization regarding work-related deaths around the world. The figures they presented are startling and grave. Nearly 30 lakh people die globally each year due to occupational accidents and diseases. Over 60% of these deaths are occurring right here in the Asia Pacific region, including India. Let those numbers sink in. These are preventable tragedies happening on a massive scale. The analysis shows the biggest workplace killer is grueling long working hours. Being forced to work 55 hours or more per week resulted in horrifying 7.5 lakh deaths in 2016 alone. Other major factors are constant exposure to air contaminants like industrial gases or fumes causing around 4.5 lakh annual deaths and occupational injuries accounting for 3.63 lakh deaths each year. But here's the thing, most of these deaths are not even from accidents, but from insidious occupational diseases that build up over years of exposure, like circulatory illness, cancer, respiratory disease, and whatnot. In fact, deaths from cancers or linked to asbestos have risen 40% from 2000 to 2016 due to what workers face. Yet our governments and institutions have responded inadequately. Most countries, including India, have failed to ratify key ILO conventions like Occupational Safety and Health Convention 155 and the Promotional Framework for Occupational Safety and Health Convention 187. There are no easy fixes here. Ensuring fundamental rights for workers and stronger OSH regulations nationally will be a start. But make no mistake, we have a long struggle ahead before we can declare our workplaces acceptably safe. And the clock is ticking on lives being lost each day. Anyway, I'd like to echo our gratitude to all our listeners for joining. At IR88, we wish to confront status quo narratives and breathe fresh perspective into discourse on international relations and politics. This podcast is an opportunity to dig deeper on current events through respectful, solutions oriented dialogue. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share to support independent voices in media. If you want to continue any of the conversations started today, please do find us across social media. The social handles will be mentioned in the description. We aim to build an engaged community of critical thinkers around the topics that will shape our shared global future. Until next time, take care. This has been the IR88 podcast. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would love to take a minute to show gratitude to our sponsor, Chromist, an upcoming clothing brand. Stay tuned and follow us for further updates. Thank you.
If young Metro don't trust you, I'm gonna